Let me bring my to stage. Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Shiva. I know it's a little bit late. We've been very, very busy in the midst of filing a number of lawsuits and educating others how to do that relative to the illegal manner in which the Democrats, Republicans who are Democrats, and the fake independents who are Democrats have been working to get us off the ballot. But we have a incredible movement that we're educating people on how to fight. But what I want to talk about today is something very, very inspiring, which is the 46th birthday of email. As many of you know, I'm the guy who invented email. The real story here, which we'll cover, is not just the obvious facts, which are beyond black and white, of the invention of email, but more importantly, the story that led to the invention of email, as well as the aftermath of what took place when the facts of the invention of email came out and what that means to everyone. So on this 46th birthday anniversary, I want to reflect on that. But just to give everyone the facts, in 1978, I was the first one in the world to convert the old-fashioned interoffice paper-based mail system to its electronic form. And that system is what I converted in 50,000 lines of Fortran code, which is a very difficult language to program in 8K of memory. And I captured every feature of that physical interoffice mail system, which was the inbox, the outbox, folders, drafts, address book, attachments, carbon copy, BCC, go down the list, about 100 different features. And for those of you who are interested in all of this, the history of it, if you go to email.com, where we memorialized everything, I'll bring it up. You can understand what is email. Email is not the simple exchange of text messages. If you over electronic devices, if you want to think that's email, then the credit for that goes to Samuel Morse. I'm surely not the inventor of the exchange of text messages, and I don't want to take credit for that. Never have I sought credit for that, or would I want to take someone else's credit. But I am the inventor of email, the system as we know it today. So if you go to the inventorofemail.com site, you will see that there are various sections here, the definition of email, for example. And here you can see there's a table right here, which lists when I was a 14-year-old kid, by the way, this is 1978, 46 years ago, I had to go around and make a list of that interoffice mail system. You can see what that was. The interoffice mail system had the inbox, the outbox, the drafts folder, memo, attachments, folders, compose, forward, reply, address book, groups. And you can see all of these different features. And these features were the physical features in this very complex set of interconnected parts known as the interoffice mail system. And it looked something like this. Here was a secretary at her desk where she had folders, the inbox, outbox, attachments, the typewriter. Underneath her desk was a trash can. And she would write these things called memos, which were then put into these interoffice mail envelopes and sent throughout these pneumatic tubes. This was the interoffice mail system. It had the terminology that you see in modern email system came directly from the replica of this. And I was the first one to take this entire system and convert it to the electronic version. In fact, this site, whoinventedemail.com, which I encourage everyone to go to, has a little blurb up there. It says, before email, there was the interoffice, interorganizational mail system, inbox, outbox, folders, address book, attachment. But it was all done using paper. Quote unquote experts thought it was impossible at the time to create a computer-based version of that system and did not attempt to take on this challenge. But perhaps because of my ignorance as a 14-year-old kid, I never thought it impossible when my supervisor, Dr. Leslie P. Michelson, at a small medical college in Newark, New Jersey, challenged me to do so. I wrote 50,000 lines of Fortran code across a system of 35 software programs to create the first such electronic system. It was a success. I called it email, a term never used before in the English language. I received the first US copyright for that invention at a time when copyright was the only way to protect software invention. The struggle and victory to share these facts, celebrate that boy, his hard work, and the infinite possibilities of that America, which provided me an ecosystem to create and innovate. By the way, when the news of this came out and when Gawker Media called me all sorts of names, I had to sue them in federal court because the facts are so obvious. The problem was I didn't promote myself for many years. So here's a major lawsuit I won, close to $1 million, when people called me all sorts of horrible names saying I didn't invent it. The problem was that I was not a self-promoter. And it's taken me years to realize that one must share or take credit for what they did. I was brought up to be a humble Indian kid. Even though when I came to MIT in 1981, they listed it on the front page of the MIT newspaper. Again, I was taught to be very humble. It was only 2011 when it went into when Time Magazine did an article on it and went into the Smithsonian. 33 years later, I was just giving all the materials to the Smithsonian, and it created this massive fake controversy. Racist, prejudiced organization like Wikipedia locked my website, wouldn't even make me make changes, attack people, the Wikipedia organization, because they had written the false narrative that email was created by the military-industrial academic complex, which did not create email. And they found this nerd-looking guy called Ray Tomlinson. All he did was write 15 minutes of code to plaster text onto the bottom of a file. At best, it was a caveman version of Reddit or Facebook. It was not email. I created email, period. Any controversy that exists was self-created, because the truth about the fact that a dark-skinned Indian American kid in Newark, New Jersey, creating email outside of the bounds of the military-industrial complex breaks so many rules and scares the shit out of these guys. But you can go to inventorofemail.com. I also encourage people to go to whoinventedemail.com. And it took me a lot of effort to have to realize that I had to memorialize all of this, share all the receipts, put everything together. And it was a Herculean effort to share what you'd actually done when others were plagiarizing your work, right? Taking credit for what they had not done. And that's been, unfortunately, a theme when you actually do the hard work and you innovate and you don't spend time bullshitting and marketing. Others steal your stuff. And you see that right now. It was I who exposed the backdoor portal into Twitter. Booby fucking Kennedy takes credit for it. And Fucker Carlson promotes that nonsense because Fucker Carlson is part of the deep state, part of the military-industrial complex. So are the Kennedys. So is Trump. So is Kamala Harris. You see, the bottom line is they do not want one of us who actually does the hard work, comes from below, does not spend all their time bullshitting and marketing to get credit for what we do. And then when you actually go and say, hey, I did this work, you're stealing it from me, then they say, oh, why do you want credit for that? You say, credit doesn't matter. Well, yeah, it does. And why does credit matter? Well, about 7 or 8 years ago, Arvind Gupta, one of the big digital guys in India, wrote a very interesting article on why credit matters and why the invention of email does matter to every child, And so I want you to read that because it'll give you an insight into the importance of credit and who does the right credit, okay? So let me read that to you. And this is from an article that was done when people were attacking me falsely with great jealousy, great vitriol. And so this article said, the U.S. government certified the official copyright on email on August 30th for Dr. Shiva Ayadurai for Shiva Ayadurai's 1978 invention. At that time, computer software code could not be patented in the United States. Ayadurai went on to earn 4 degrees from MIT. Email transformed our business communication and collaboration like no other technology. It's probably the longest surviving of internet tools in its various forms. The now ubiquitous @ between the host server was courtesy of Ray Tomlinson, but you don't need the @ okay? But that's all he contributed, like the @ in Twitter. Why does academic credit matter? Because a journey matters. This is probably the most very powerful thing. The journey matters, the motivation matters, and history matters to generations of inventors, dreamers, and entrepreneurs deserve to know the truth. Big change happens in small places when the opportunity meets people who are driven to find answers. That's how email, as we know it, came to be. The story of email exemplifies a journey of a team that included a precocious Indian-born teenager eager to be useful in America, grateful for the later opportunity to earn 4 degrees at MIT after inventing and copywriting the email system, and human desire to solve problems. For far too long, we've all been led to believe that communication's greatest innovations come out of defense research, inspired by the needs of war. Great innovations can be inspired to advance life, not just retrofitted from defense technologies. Email was created in a place of light and cooperation, and it is important for people across the world to understand and appreciate this. Telling the truth about the invention of email in Newark, New Jersey, therefore, is a historical imperative toward breaking this blind belief in the supremacy of defense research to reveal a fundamental truth. Innovation can occur anytime, any place, by anybody, and war and profit are not its necessary and required impetus. So that's the background, ladies and gentlemen. The reality is that credit does matter. And it took me a while to realize that one must take credit for the work you've done. But 46 years ago, I was a 14-year-old kid. I'm 60 years old now, and I haven't stopped working. I've been working as an engineer, as a scientist since when I was 14. In fact, in that medical school, before I invented that email system, I was actually doing medical research, using computer programs to understand why babies were dying in their sleep, looking at their sleep patterns. So that's what I was really interested in medicine. And I got brought over to email, to the invention of email, to do this very fascinating challenge. Now, years later, I went on to continue another invention in email, creating AI technologies to automatic read email and sort them and reply to them. And that was a company called EchoMail. So let it be known that 46 years ago, as a 14-year-old kid, I had the privilege to work with people who were 30, 40 years my senior. They trusted me. They gave me great opportunity. They was a dignified group of people in the small medical college. And in that small medical college, where we were motivated by wanting to do something, not hiding our research. Everyone we shared our stuff with, IBM, Hewlett Packard, saw my invention. And many years later, they copied it, right? You see, at the time, you could not patent software. The United States Patent Office and the Supreme Court was not allowing software patents. It was only in 1994 could you patent software. But in 1980, the Copyright Act of 1980 was passed that allowed you to protect software inventions using copyright. So when I came to MIT in 1981, the president of MIT had heard about my invention, and he said, you should protect it. And I had to fill out all the paperwork to do that. And then on August 30th, 1982, I received formal recognition by the United States government legally for the invention of email. So just understand, I created all the code to capture every feature that you see now, inbox, outbox, and no one had done this before. And I named that system email, a term never used before. And I also got the credit for doing that by the United States government. And you can see right here, we can make it a little bit bigger. Let's put it bigger right here. And you can see there is the actual copyright. Now, I had to do that as a kid. My parents weren't lawyers. I had to fill it out. But here's the official receipt. Email, computer program for electronic mail system, August 30th, 1982. Wrote the code, 50,000 lines, worked day and night, named it email. And this occurred before I came to MIT, okay? That's very important to understand. You see, you don't need to go to MIT to become some great inventor. Anyone can invent anything wherever they are if they take an actual problem and are dedicated to this. Now, in my case, what was I dedicated to? I was dedicated to these incredible secretaries. Most of them, 99.99% of them, were women at the time. And they were relegated to being a typist on a desk, writing memos for their boss, who was always a man. And the doctor would come over to these secretaries and he'd say, take a memo for me, Alice. And Alice would go to her typewriter and he would dictate a letter. And the secretary would type it up, show it to him. And the boss would look at it. And then he would, actually, she'd put it in the drafts folder. And he would look at it, redline it with a red marker or red pen. put it back in the drafts folder. She would then retype it, put it back in the drafts folder, went back and forth. Eventually, when it was ready to go, they would decide who they were going to send it to. They had an address book. Sometimes you would send it to a group of people like surgeons, like the surgery group or pharmacology. Or you would send it to an individual and carbon copy someone else. And carbon copy meant you took the paper, put a piece of carbon paper, typed another one. If you had to do 7 carbon copies, you'd have to type this 6 times, right? Because the original 7 times the original plus 7 others. Sometimes you BCC'd people, okay? Blind carbon copy. These were actual carbon paper, okay? So one must recognize this was a very physical, time-consuming process. So when I was asked to do this, I had to go to the secretaries and understand what features that they wanted done. And they gave me all their features, and they said, we're not going to move away from our physical world of the typewriter to this thing called the computer unless we have all these features. And there were hundreds of features. That's why I say email is an interconnected system of parts. It's not the simple exchange of text messages. And the military and Wikipedia and all these racist organizations trying to take credit for what I did when the facts are black and white is less about me, but it's more about you, in the sense they want to bamboozle you into thinking that all great inventions come out of war. They don't. Okay? Yeah, and someone says it's a protocol. No, idiot, it's not a protocol. Email's not a protocol. You don't need a protocol for email. Again, this guy's a fool. You don't need, in fact, the internet for email. Another thing many people do not understand. In the old days, you connected a bunch of computers together and you communicated across those computers without, quote unquote, a protocol. The protocol came much later, okay? So a lot of people say this, but they weren't there. They just read and replicate. I'm the guy who invented email, and you don't need the internet for email, period. Okay? In fact, the first email systems were on local area networks without the internet. So the question is that one must ask, who created this controversy? When I have all the receipts, when I have the code, why was this controversy created? And why is it that my name is not known everywhere? It's not on a stamp. Where are the statues? I have to ask that. Do I have to be white, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, and my last name be Einstein or Reinstein or something? You have to ask that. And the reality is, my story is your story. There are many great things that have come from ordinary people, bottoms up. And they do not want to promote those stories because it shows that great things can happen by anyone. Innovation occurs anytime, any place, by anybody. And I didn't have to go to MIT to create email. You don't need the military to create email. And as a part of that, I want people to, so you have the Inventor of Email site. And after I won my lawsuit, exposing these people who attempted to take credit for what I'd done or with great vitriol attack me, we created a site called whoinventedemail.com. And I encourage everyone to go there because this site is a wonderful site because it gives you all the tools to really understand what is email, who created it, and why it was actually created for. So let me take you over to that site, okay? So if you go to the site whoinventedemail.com, first of all, begins with the basic facts. First of all, fact 1, what is email? Well, email is a system. It's not the simple exchange of text messages, period. If you think simple exchange of text messages is email, well, you would call texting email. You would call chat email. You would call Facebook email. You call Twitter email. No, email is a very specific system of interlocking parts. Now, the quote unquote internet pioneers, when they came to learn about when my stuff went to Smithsonian, they said, no, he didn't create email. He's an asshole. He's a dick. He's a fraud. Those are the kinds of ways they talked about me. Well, they thought it was impossible to create email. Fact 3 is I was the one who created email. Fact 4 is Ray Tomlinson did not invent email. And you can see what he actually did. He did 15 minutes of coding to exchange text to the bottom of a file, more like a blog post at best, a caveman version of Reddit. Now, beyond the invention of email, I didn't need credit for this because I'd created many other things. But someone did benefit from the vicious attacks on email. And there needs to be, after I did all this, people finally came out of the woodworks. Deshpande, who's a billionaire who created some of the biggest network tools. Noam Chomsky, a professor at MIT, Dr. Debbie Nightingale. Now, Debbie Nightingale held 2 professorships at MIT, and she finally went through the facts objectively. And this is what she wrote. She said, email is a system, not the mere exchange of text messages. It is the electronic emulation of a complex systems process that already existed in the interoffice mail environment where collaboration was front and center. An email message, unlike a simple text message, touched multiple sets of people in the intra and inter-organizational enterprise to get major tasks done, making decisions, hiring new employees, formalizing contracts, closing business, and much more. In short, an integral system for running an organization, small or large. That is what email was designed for. And it makes absolute sense that it came out of a health sciences institution where collaboration was critical to day-to-day operations. You see, the military was not about collaboration. It was point-to-point messaging, text messaging. Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai is the inventor of email, the enterprise system, which is a mainstay of every organization. He never claimed to be the inventor of electronic messaging, as the Smithsonian Washington Post stated in error and got completely wrong. There is no controversy here except the one fabricated by these quote-unquote internet pioneers to confuse and mislead journalists. Real journalists and scholars without vested interest and prejudices now need to set the record straight. Here's another guy who was a captain of and staff of Commander-in-Chief Pacific Fleet in the United States. He said as early as 1970, some idiots will say, oh, no, email existed before 78. Bullshit. That was simple text messaging, not email. As early as 1972, I used naval messaging between ships and short stations to transmit and receive electronic messages using HF and UHF. This was how electronic communications took place in the Navy. This is Robert Condon, by the way. And this via electronic teletype. Later, as a postgraduate officer in the United States Navy, during 78 to 79, I sent text messages between computers on an intranet. Regardless, these rudimentary text messaging systems required complex commands to construct, send, and receive a message. None of these systems are email. Again, this is a guy who's a retired captain, commander-in-chief of the Pacific Fleet, okay? And he said none of these systems were email. The system we all know that Dr. Shiva created in 1978. For example, every message had to be printed out, then was archived in a physical box. Sorting was physical. The distribution of the mail was manual, as it had to be printed and copied on mimeograph machine. There was no electronic inbox, outbox, folders for archiving, attachments, address book, tracking of deleted mail. None of these features existed. These early methods of exchanging simple text message were sufficient for the military's requirement for sending messages from point to point, and were not designed for collaboration as in the interoffice mail system. The military's particular needs for communication were dictated by an inherent hierarchy that issued orders and directions that needed to be secure with a focus on the direct transfer of messages. Any attempt at collaborating was time-consuming and manpower-intensive, and those early systems required us to write code and use commands, and untrained personnel could not do that. It wasn't email. All right, so that's a point. If anyone has any questions about this, you need to go through that site, Who Invented Email, and educate people, because there are a lot of idiots out there, particularly in their 20s or 25, who just cut and copy nonsense on Wikipedia. Wikipedia is a racist, anti-human organization, which essentially just makes up narratives and perpetuates lies. And this is not a good thing. So you're hearing it directly from the horse's mouth. You know, the reality is many of these people hope that guys like me die and they steal your invention. That's what they've done to many inventors. The problem they have with me, I'm still alive. Okay? So what we'd like to do now, just to summarize, 1978, a 14-year-old kid, today I'm known as Dr. Shiva. At that time, I was just Shiva, invented the first email system. Didn't talk a lot about it, but I won many, many awards for that invention. You can go see it. Go to inventorofemail.com. It's all there. Won one of the Westinghouse Science Awards, was featured on the front page of MIT. This is all in the late 70s, early 80s, but never wanted credit for it. It was only in 2011 when it went into the Smithsonian that it created a fake controversy. But it's very important for all of us to share the truth about the invention of email, and that the credit does go to me and that 14-year-old kid in Newark, New Jersey, and the environment that created that. It wasn't an environment of the military-industrial academic complex. It was the environment of collaboration between a loving family, mentors, and infrastructure that I was given. That's where real innovation comes from. So what I'd like to do is, if anyone has any questions about this on the anniversary, I want to open up our phone lines. Trey's going to share it. And you guys feel free to call and ask any question you want. And you can call 617, comes right to my cell phone, 631-6874. Any questions, okay? Any questions? And by the way, what's really interesting is Elon Musk, a fake inventor, hasn't invented really anything except destroyed a lot of companies. If you go to the website or Twitter and you try to like the post on the invention of email, he takes away the likes. He removes the likes. Remember, Elon Musk grew up in racist apartheid South Africa. He thinks only him and probably white supremacists like him can invent email. But more importantly, there are a lot of Indians in India who also think, Indians, by the way, some of the worst white supremacists, because they think only white people invent everything. White people in America, working class people, actually are not quote unquote white supremacists. When they look at the facts, they get it. So there's some very interesting dynamics here. Someone said email had 0 carbon footprint. Exactly. So if you want to ask any question, feel free to call and I'll take questions. But the key thing is, I've always been into solving problems and solving real problems. With email, I solved the problem of helping women who are in many ways not treated fairly and relegated just to use a typewriter go from the typewriter to the keyboard at a time when old white guys in lab coats were the only ones thinking they were smart enough to use computers. So email, yeah, someone said I had problems on Twitter trying to get notifications. Yep. So email liberated women technology because it took them, it was the first application that took them from the physical world of paper into this world of the digital world. So that's what motivated me. So email in many ways has a lot of politics to it. The politics of the military industrial complex, who wants to take credit for something they didn't invent. The politics of truly liberating women in the work environment to move from the typewriter to the keyboard, and many, many other implications. If anyone has any questions, please call. And particularly, anyone. So 617-631-6874. It's about 11 p.m. here on the East Coast. Any questions? All right. If there are not any questions, then let me end by just sharing with all of you something that's really important to understand, that my desire to innovate has never ended. After the invention of email, I created the ability to answer email automatically, created a $250 million company called EchoMail. Then went on to create one of the first sites for artists to go online in 1993. Then created Cytosol, which is a technology to mathematically model every disease on the computer and eliminate the need for animal testing. More recently, we've created the movement for Truth, Freedom, Health, which itself is a system. Truth, Freedom, Health is a system, but it's a system that it's a socio-technological system. It involves you, it involves technology, it involves education. And the purpose of Truth, Freedom, Health, like email, is a platform. Whereas all of us interact on that platform, we get educated, we understand systems dynamics, system science, we understand how the elites use the science of systems to suppress us and how we can use the science of systems to what I call shatter them, shatter the swarm. So ultimately, one has to realize that technology never can really liberate us. You know, when email came out, it was originally put on local area servers. Everyone had their own email servers. Now, a few companies own our email, Gmail, Hotmail, or Microsoft, et cetera, and it's in the cloud. This is very, very dangerous, actually, because you don't own your email anymore. And I've written a lot about this because when the United States Postal Service was created by the framers of the Constitution, they believed free speech equals free reach. Elon Musk, the dirtbag, does not believe free speech equals free reach. The ADL, the Zionists, do not believe free speech equals free reach. They believe only some people should be able to have speech. So someone's calling here. Hi, who is this? What's your question?
My name is Sue.
Yeah.
My question is, were you involved in any of the creation of the maps that early email had to use as jump points to move the mail from one part of the country to the other?
No, because you didn't. So first of all, let's answer this question. So you don't need the internet for email. Is that clear?
Okay.
Okay, so this is, people think you need that the internet and email go hand in glove. They don't. All right. So if you remember, do you remember the first email systems that were commercialized in 1983?
I'll say that I don't.
Okay. This is before the internet really took off. People would get a bunch of computers, wire them together, and they had an email program like Eudora running. Okay.
Yes.
So the conflation, thinking you need the internet network for email, is just nonsense. Okay. So you have email is a system. So in those old, in that medical school, we had a bunch of network computers, right? And then we had a wide area network. This was in Newark to Piscataway and to New Brunswick. There was no internet, but on those computers, my email program ran, you see? So all these IP addresses and all these, you don't need for email. So email is a system, a piece of software that can run on an intranet. It can run on an internet. It can run on anything. You see what I'm saying? It can run just on one computer. Okay.
Yes, exactly.
So
I worked at Bell Laboratories,
yep.
And they had a little room that had a machine that was a major email pass-through point in the country. And
yes.
Volunteers ran it. And yes, it was before the big internet. It was wonderful.
Right. So the key thing is to understand that email is a direct replica. Now, you may remember this. Remember the old-fashioned interoffice mail system? The secretary was there with the typewriter. She had the inbox, the outbox, the folders. She had carbon paper, the pneumatic tubes. That was the physical version of email. So email is a system. And taking all of those features and putting it into the electronic version was email. Email is not the simple exchange of text messages. If you go back to the 1930s, they had radio teletype where you could from point to point share messages. That's not email, right? Just like Morse code is not email. So
I was amazed when I heard that people believed that the text messaging was email.
Exactly.
No, why? Why would they believe that?
Exactly. And the reason they started believing that is because there's a very good essay written by a guy called Michael Podlipsky. He talked about how Raytheon and all these guys, BB&N, would sit together trying to take credit for stuff they didn't do. The reason is they wanted to give, see, the brainwashing is to make Americans think that all great things come from war. That you fund war, oh my God, we get email. Isn't that great? No, well, email was not created by these idiots, these nerds working for the military. It was created by me, working in a very different world to save life in a health medical institution. You see, this is what's profoundly, ironically, the truth, that email was done in a healthcare institution where people had to collaborate. In the military, you don't have to collaborate. There's a boss and he sends messages to people. You say, do this, do that, right?
Right.
In an office environment, like in a hospital environment, you have researchers, you have interns, you have students, and everyone has to collaborate. So email by its nature is a collaborative medium. That's why you had the CC, right? Remember, you'd send a letter to your boss and you'd CC HR and other people because you wanted to let people know what's going on. You don't do that in the military. You just send a message. Right. It's point-to-point messaging. So this is really important to understand. But I have to say that if I had been in the military as a 14-year-old and I had created email, then I would probably get all the credit because the military wants to promote the credit that they do everything. But the fact is that email was done in Newark, New Jersey, predominantly African-American place, right? By a 14-year-old kid in a small medical college, not done at MIT, not done at Harvard, Stanford. And this is what bugs people because they want everyone to think that you have to go to MIT and talk and act like a nerd. And then you get to invent something or, talk like an idiot like Elon Musk does, who, by the way, hasn't invented anything. he goes to companies, puts his name on their founding documents like Tesla or SpaceX or Twitter, and says he's the founder. He's full of shit. So, and if you go to Twitter and you see the post that's up there on Invention, people try to like it, and he makes sure no one else can like it because they do not want people to know this central fact that A, you don't need the internet for email. B, email is a system of interlocking parts. And it's not simple text messaging, which you obviously understand. So, great question. Where are you out of, by the way?
I'm just south of Chicago.
Great. So you remember those interoffice mail systems? Remember them? You remember them?
Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
But I was at the Bell Labs buildings when
Yep.
they started doing major emails. And in my lifetime, that was one of the greatest inventions. It was wonderful.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is, I remember when I was 14, the surgeon came by and he said to me, "Oh, why are you doing this email thing? You know, I'm not going to like it because all I do is I just go to my secretary and I dictate. She does everything. You're going to make me a," I remember this. He said, "You're going to make me a secretary, okay? And it's never going to work." Anyway, we got it out to all the hundreds of users. We had the manual. You know, I wrote all of that stuff. Now, ever since then, every quote unquote expert since 1978 has been saying email is going to die. Oh, text messaging is here. No one's going to use email. Facebook is here. No one's going to use email. Twitter is here. The reality is email is a medium for business collaboration. As long as people are doing business, as long as there's contracts, warrants to be issued, email is going to be the mainstay. Email will never die.
Yeah, it's the only thing that crosses all of it, because all those things you mentioned, they're separate. They're their own entities. You need email to go everywhere.
Exactly.
It can't stop at Facebook. It can't stop at Twitter.
Yeah, in fact, the email now is accepted in courts as a way to deliver summons. You see, it's become it's a mainstay for business. One of the books that I wrote, I talk about it. There's 3 types of messaging. One type of messaging is like community messaging, right? Remember the bulletin boards in our high schools? You'd put up a message for everyone.
Oh, yeah.
That goes back to primitive times when people used to do cave wall paintings. That was community messaging. And then today it's Facebook, right? You put up a post, everyone sees it. The second type of messaging is more short messaging for informal messages. In ancient times, they used smoke signals, right? Short messages. Then we started doing little sticky notes, you know, writing on those sticky notes.
Oh, yeah.
And now, and that's what chat is, right? It's quick text messages. Then there's much more formal messaging, like the letter, the formal letter, like for business use. Well, in ancient times, they used to write these letters on papyrus. And the modern is the modern messaging that we have that's equivalent of letters is email, right? So each of these systems have very, very different needs. Short messaging, community messaging. So email, that's what email is. And once people understand it, they'll realize that there's no controversy here, but they actually fabricated one because they want to take credit away, not only from me, but from all of us, everyday people. But thank you for your call.
Sure. Thanks for talking to me.
Yep.
Good luck.
Okay, thank you. All right, that was a nice call from someone who actually remembers the interoffice mail system. Crystal just wrote, email will never go away, the most useful invention of our times. Yeah, by the way, if people go to Twitter, and this is how scumbag that Twitter is, all of them, because they think only they from the elite Silicon Valley can invent anything, and it bothers them so much that I created email. And even when I share the facts, they go to the extent of making sure no one can even like the posts and share the posts. And if you go right to it, you'll see comment after comment after comment, people sharing that. So if everyone's watching this, if you go to Twitter here, and it says right here, anniversary of email. Now, it's got a lot more than 8,000 retweets, a lot more than 1,900 likes. This has been up since 2019. So Elon Musk, Jack, whatever his fucking face is, have been literally deleting likes, tweets from this. They don't want this fact out. This was back from 2019. So understand that everyone should know about the invention of email, that it was done by me as a 14-year-old kid, not just for the credit that is well-deserved, but for all of us to understand the origin of innovation. It does not come from them, from high places at MIT and Harvard. It comes from below. In fact, the automatic windshield wiper was done by a Michigan mechanic, and 2 MIT people stole it from him. And then they said they're the ones who created automatic control systems. And there's enough evidence of this over and over and over again, of big guys coming in and stealing the small guy's invention and taking credit for this. The problem they have with me is I created email before I went to MIT, got all their degrees, 4 degrees, and then I'm sharing the fact that, wait a minute, I created email before I came to MIT, and this bothers even MIT. But the advantage I have is I'm not dead, and I have all the facts, and I know the journey before MIT, after MIT. And that's why the invention of email must be shared widely and broadly. And that's why we celebrate it. Let your kids know. Demand from teachers in high schools. In elementary schools, they teach the truth about the invention of email because it'll inspire people that it comes from everyday people. And that's what I wanted to share with you. Finally, as I close out, every one of you know that I consider myself in many ways a kindred spirit with the framers and the founders of the Constitution or the Declaration of Independence and all those people. Why? Because those people were inventors, scientists, surveyors, working people like us. They created, they innovated. And in many ways, I've fashioned my life like them. I'm an engineer, I'm a scientist, I'm a designer, but I'm also involved in activism and politics because I believe you can't separate them. You have to interconnect freedom, the fight for freedom, innovation and truth, and the sustaining of our own health. I participate in all those 3 worlds. And there's nothing that prevents anyone from being in all these worlds. You don't just have to be in a cubbyhole doing one thing. And so my running for president, you would think would be on the front page everywhere. MIT PhD, won every award, the inventor of email. But think about it. How much effort the elites go to attempt to make me and our movement invisible. It scares the shit out of them that someone like me who came bottoms up, invented email, invented companies, created many things, also decides to enter politics and fight for working people. This really bugs them because guys like me should have sold out to the military industrial academic complex, but I never did. So recognize that my running for president gives not only the United States, but the whole world an opportunity to honor us working people bottoms up, have dignity for our work. Booby Kennedy has never created anything, selling cocaine, heroin addict, banging all sorts of women, driving his wife to hang herself, Trump, Kamala Harris. Think about the quality of these dirtbags and then compare them to my journey and your journey. Why are they getting so much publicity? Because they want to demean all of us as though those people are better than the work that we do. Okay? So I have no intention of selling out because I hate these people. And you must hate these devils. You must. Don't let anyone tell you that it's okay to love these devils. Nope, I don't believe Christ ever said that. It's very important to honor the invention of email because it honors us, our souls, our spirits, of the real origin of where innovation comes from. It's in everyone's DNA. It's not limited to a bunch of morons who have tics and act weird in Silicon Valley or go to a place like MIT. I was a great inventor before I went to MIT. MIT was actually lucky to get me. It took me a long time to realize that. Yeah, someone said Christ whipped them. You're absolutely right. They all need to be whipped. And my running for president gives all of you to be defiant and to say fuck you to them. So when November 5th comes out, vote if we're on the ballots because they're trying to take us off, or write us in. Write in Dr.SHIVA. Write in, be defiant, say fuck you to them. Because their elections are all controlled. Whether you vote for Trump or Kamala or Booby or fucking Cornell or Jill Stein, they're all Zionists and liberal Zionists. I'm the only one who does not suck Zionist cock. Remember that. I'm the only one who's actually worked hard, bottoms up. No one ever gave me anything. No one ever gave you anything. These people were born with silver spoons. It's time we respect ourselves. The invention of email gives you an opportunity to realize what happens when we come together and we work together. Email was born in an environment of collaboration. Email is a tool for collaboration. So everyone out there, let me give you two things, and I'll play a video. Everyone should go to shivaforpresident.com. Go there and support our historic campaign, because it's our campaign. It's not their campaign. It's our campaign. So go to shivaforpresident.com. The inventor of email is running for president. Go there. You can go to downloads. You can print out these cards. Write in Dr. Shiva. And the front of the card has this. The back of the card has this. It tells you what they're doing to us. They're increasing cost of living. Lifespan is going down. And we have to learn how to fight back. You can get it in Spanish too. These cards, those of you who don't want to get the cards and print it on your own, you can go right here. And we are giving 10,000 cards. We want you to plaster these cards everywhere. The future is offline. Get these less than 2 cents a card. Plaster these cards everywhere. Because you see, the online medium is now controlled by dirtbags like Elon Musk. The future is offline. That's really the innovation. So go there and support one of us for president of the United States. I deserve to be president. You deserve me to have you as your president, okay? So let me just, I'll come back, but I want to share with you the Shiva for President campaign video, which hopefully will inspire, and I'll come back with some final words.
Who would have ever thought I'd be running for president of the United States of America? I was born a low-caste untouchable in India's caste system, a system of aristocracy, oppression, and racism. My name is Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai. I'm an MIT PhD, a Fulbright scholar, a scientist, engineer, entrepreneur, and inventor. My family and I left India to come to America on my 7th birthday. I grew up in the working-class neighborhoods of New Jersey, playing baseball, mowing lawns, painting houses, and coding software. My friends and neighbors are blacks, Italians, Irish, people of all races. As a 14-year-old, I wrote 50,000 lines of software code to create the world's first email system, and was awarded the first U.S. copyright for email, recognizing me as its official inventor at a time when copyright was the only way to protect software inventions. I did that long before I ever came to MIT, revealing that big innovations can occur anytime, any place, by anybody. Growing up, I saw politicians dividing us by race and religion in both America and India, to have us fighting each other while they remained safe in their gated communities and in their playgrounds of Hollywood, Martha's Vineyard, and Silicon Valley. I'm a fighter. I fought racism and exposed their imperialist wars, fought for workers, and put my life on the line against global corruption. I never wanted to run for political office. All that changed when I saw working Americans as never before being duped by the establishment, and the not-so-obvious establishment. Across left and right, we were being sold out and made to forget why we came to America and why America existed. Lawyers, academics, billionaires, celebrities, and politicians, elites, Clintons, Kennedys, Bidens, Obamas, Bushes, black and white have hijacked America. They printed trillions for their friends. They delivered crumbling infrastructure, corruption, and racism. They've transferred trillions to themselves, dividing black and white, fear-mongering, and fake science. Lockdowns and censorship, dirty air, food, and water, pushing drugs upon us, making us sicker. We've been sold out. One set of rules for them and another for us. We deserve a warrior with a history of courage in putting everything on the line for you, who believes in you, not them, who has created a movement bottoms up for truth, freedom, health. I've exposed their lies at the right time, never waiting until it was popular. I've exposed their false gods who exist to lead you back to them. I've exposed their fake science of lockdowns and masking and provided you solutions to fight them and win and protect your immune system, saving millions. I exposed Fauci, galvanized the Fire Fauci campaign when others remained silent. When they stole our election, we sued the government and Twitter in our historic 2020 federal lawsuit, exposing in bare view the government and big tech censorship infrastructure, the unholy alliance between government and social media companies. Where was Elon and his grifters? They stood by the sidelines and did nothing. They did not use their megaphones to help us when it could have made a big difference. Now our movement grows for truth, freedom, health, independent of all of them. Every day millions are learning the science of systems, the knowledge the elites do not want you to have, so you may learn how to think, stand up, and fight, independent of the establishment of left and right and their fake heroes. Now it's time for you to join the movement, to win back America, to win back truth, win back freedom, win back your health. That's why I'm running for President of the United States. This race is about you. This race is about truth, freedom, health. versus power profit control. We've had enough. They think we'll fall in line and vote again for their lawyers, celebrities, billionaires, and chosen ones from above. We choose our heroes from below, from the rank and file, who do what is right at the right time, not when it's convenient and popular. They can never represent us. What America needs is a movement by the working people, for the working people, who are educated, organized, decentralized, and fight for independence from their systems of control. And that movement exists. It's ready for you. We don't need them. We need us to go bottoms up, neighbor to neighbor. My journey, your journey are all the same. It's our time. It's time we had one of us. It's time to win back truth, freedom, health, to win back America. Be part of this historic movement, all the way to our victory on November 5th, 2024. If you're an American citizen, pledge your vote now for Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai, the independent candidate for U.S. President. No matter where you live, you can be a part of this. Volunteer as little as 20 minutes a day. Don't delay. This is Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai, and I approve this message, paid for by Dr. Shiva for President.
All right, everyone. I hope everyone's having a good evening. I hope this is valuable. Get out there and share the truth about the invention of email. It's the truth of us, we the people. Get out there and go to Shiva4president.com. Volunteer, donate, get involved, hand out cards. Go get those write-in cards and get them out everywhere. And tell people the fact that one of us is running for president, and we deserve to have one of us who actually does hard work and comes from below, like all of you here. So this is our movement. Let's have dignity for us, and let's get rid of these freaks who don't do anything. They don't invent anything. They steal other people's innovations and then they blast it out there as though they do something to make us, to demean us. So don't let that happen. And that's what the invention of email reminds us of. Where real truth exists, it comes from us working together to actually solve real problems. That's what I'm committed to. These people are not interested in solving any problem. They perpetuate problems. They talk about solving them, but never solve anything because they profit from never solving anything. Anyway, I hope this was valuable. I hope this provided you an important insight to our collective journeys. Thank you. Be well. Be the light.